rising on a worn-out town, paint peeling off them old brick signs. Folks work hard, keep their heads down, trying to hold on to better times. Used to leave your door unlocked at night, now everybody's got a camera on. Still got faith if we get it right, we can fix what's gone wrong. Ain't about talk, ain't about show, it's about the way we live, the way we know. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights, neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, hard true stars up above, a little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase, it's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back to heart. By the water line, kids still laughing like nothing's changed. But there's a whole lot of talk on the screen these days, and not enough folks saying it face to face. We ain't perfect, never claimed to be, but we know what matters when the dust all clears. It's family, friends, and a little dignity, and standing strong through the years. Ain't about left, ain't about right, it's about showing up when it's time to fight. Let's get back to dirt roads, back to porch lights, neighbors standing up when it ain't polite. Cold beer, heart true stars up above, a little less noise and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a trend we chase, it's sweat on your shirt and calloused hands grace. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back to heart. Ain't no filter, ain't no spin, just who we are and where we've been. If you fall down, we pull you up, that's the kind of country built on us. Let's get back to dirt roads, back porch lights, neighbors standing up, yeah, ready to fight. Cold beer, heart true stars up above, a little less talk and a whole lot of love. Red, white, blue ain't a flag you fold, it's the way of life and a code we hold. If we're gonna stand, we don't stand apart. We gotta get back, yeah, back to heart. Yeah, back to us. Woo. Back to us. Back to heart.
From local stories that matter to the national headlines shaping our world, this is Apex News Above the Noise. I am Kyle Thompson.
And I'm Craig Blanton.
Thanks for joining us tonight. We begin tonight, Craig, with breaking fallout in Washington, where a high-profile resignation is basically sending shockwaves throughout Congress and raising serious questions about accountability at the highest levels of government. Before we get into the theatrics and what all's happening in Congress, let's play a quick video you found earlier on Fox 5 out in California. Let's see what they're saying out there.
You suspect this at all?
No! I was blown away. Like, blown away. Like, there's no way I would have endorsed him.
Yeah.
It's such a shock. And you know what? With a lot of the phone calls I've had over the last couple days, if you want to be a really good investigative journalist, start investigating everyone in Congress. Because it's a cesspool of the S word.
I was going to say, first say you're mad. I mean...
Mad?
Yeah.
I am no longer a Democrat. I'm now a libertarian Republican.
And that's Swalwell's number one backer for more than 15 years, 10
Yeah,
to 12 years.
Stephen Klubeck there, who is a billionaire, who has supported Eric Swalwell and a number of other California Democrats, including Kamala Harris and Gavin Newsom, for many, many years, and gave billions to, I shouldn't say billions, he has
Millions.
certainly given millions to the PACs and the Democrat Party. Just to get into the actual headlines here, California Congressman Eric Swalwell has announced he will resign from Congress following multiple allegations of sexual misconduct, triggering bipartisan backlash and a formal ethics investigation. According to NBC Los Angeles, Swalwell made the announcement as allegations from multiple women, including a former staffer, became public. The claims include accusations of inappropriate conduct and sexual assault, though Swalwell has denied key elements and says he intends to defend himself. He quoted by saying, "I must not allow this to distract from my duties," Swalwell said in a statement announcing his resignation. The situation escalated rapidly. The U.S. House Ethics Committee has opened a formal investigation, and according to Reuters, lawmakers from both parties began discussing possible expulsion if he did not step down. Arizona Congressman Ruben Gallego, who I know you want to talk about, was among those.
Senator.
Excuse me.
Senator.
Yeah, Arizona Senator Ruben Gallego was among those weighing in, emphasizing that members of Congress must be held to a higher standard and that stepping aside may be necessary when public trust is compromised. Other lawmakers on both sides echoed that sentiment, calling for transparency and accountability as the ethics investigation moves forward. And according to the Washington Post, the speed of Swalwell's resignation reflects a broader shift in Washington, where public pressure and media scrutiny are forcing faster political consequences than ever before. And before we talk about the other folks that are involved in certain aspects that are absolutely deplorable, Eric Swalwell, this hot off the press.
This came out this afternoon.
Yeah, this is from the New York Post, where Eric Swalwell is actually being investigated by the Manhattan DA's office, as well as the U.S. Attorney's Office out of Manhattan, to determine if there were any federal crimes that were committed. But this just came hot off the press from the New York Post, and their headline is damning, to say the least.
She went live on TV this afternoon.
Yeah, this is a model that knew him very well, and she asked him to help with her company, and apparently she alleges that he drugged her and then forcibly sexually assaulted her and had other injuries that she had afterwards. These are not light accusations that people are making against former Congressman Swalwell. Although he did say he will resign, we haven't actually seen a.
No, he resigned about an hour ago.
Okay, so former Congressman Swalwell, his biggest issue right now is potentially staying out of prison for the rest of his life at this point, Craig.
Yeah, Anna Paulina Luna said this around lunchtime, that she was going to file papers to get him expelled if he didn't resign by 3:00 today. And he resigned, it's 2:00 or 3:00, and he resigned right after that.
Anna Paulina Luna, who is the congresswoman from from Florida, the Gulf Coast area, and very popular in Republican Party, rising star, but also one that has over and over again talked about protecting women, and she's on the forefront of that. But let's be real about this. This wasn't a slow burn. These were allegations. The allegations go public, pressure builds, support disappears, and resignation follows, which is just astounding when it comes to members of Congress and elected officials, Craig.
Yeah, this is going to reverberate through Congress, as that billionaire said. And when Swalwell, people don't really remember this, but Swalwell ran for president in 2020, and Gallego was his campaign chairman, U.S. Senator Gallego, and said they've been friends since they both came into Congress together in 2014. So he's worried he's going to get drugged down by guilt by association, because how could he not know Swalwell was like this if they're like, as other Congress people noted, they were like very good, almost best friends in Congress. So that's going to reverberate. And then, you've got Tony Gonzalez, that resigned today, and Corey Mills is gonna resign probably, or he will be expelled. And Florida Rep Sheila McCormick, both of them are accused of stealing money. He's accused of stolen valor and other things. And there's going to be forced. I don't know what the procedure is, but it's going to be expulsion or resign. She's fighting it. I don't think he is. I think he'll resign.
And that's the irony of it, because Sheila Sherfless McCormick, both of these
There you go.
individuals on the screen right now, they are both Florida Congress people. She has been convicted. She's been or at least she's been indicted at this point.
Yeah, for stealing $5 million.
For stealing $5 million of federal grant money.
Correct.
That came through. That's a criminal charge. Corey Mills has a number of issues. He has issues with stolen valor. He has issues with potentially having domestic issues, all sorts of other problems. But both of these are Florida congressmen, one Democrat, one Republican, and they're both going to be gone. Tony Gonzalez, a Republican, gone. Eric Swalwell, gone. There have been 4 congresspeople. This is the most I can ever remember resigning during one term, and they're all doing it in the same day.
Right, 2 R's and 2 D's.
Yeah, and so I believe that the bigger fallout from that resignation which is gaining traction on Capitol Hill, is one that could bring some of the most explosive testimony in years, just about the accountability of these folks. And I think that's the crazy thing. There have been allegations against Congress people for decades. You can think all the way back to Congress people who have had
JFK.
extramarital affairs.
Hey, JFK. All
yeah.
the way back then.
That they've had issues about financing. People have talked about Nancy Pelosi for years. How did she get so wealthy? There have been allegations against Congress people since the beginning of time. This is the first time I can remember that people are simply resigning based upon the pressure. And let's be honest, had we not been in the middle of one of the most tenuous times in history when it comes to this, the elections that are coming up, these midterm elections, would we have seen so much movement from these different the different parties pushing these folks out, Craig?
Yeah, and don't forget the social media aspect. No longer does the national media decide what we're going to hear and what we don't hear. We don't do that no more. I mean, anytime a big event happens, you go straight to X, formerly Twitter, because you get the information right then. All these allegations, they hit social media first. They were downplayed, said they're not true. But then once they hung on so long, and the news media had to pick them up, and now we see where it's at today. And it's changing. The last 2 days, you and I have noted, it's changing by the hour. More and more stuff is coming out.
It is, and I've got my phone sitting right here, just waiting for any notifications that come across. But it's not just happening by the hour. You're also hearing from other folks in Congress who are taking stands, tough stands right now against this illegal behavior, the look of impropriety, as we have always said. When it comes to ethics issues, it's always the look of impropriety that's the worst. It's nothing more. And whether it's because we're in the middle of midterms or not, don't care. Just happy that it's happening for once. And I don't care if you're an R or a D. If you're doing wrong, you got to go. You got to go. And if you broke the law, then you should absolutely go. And if you hurt a woman, then may God have mercy on your soul, because you should serve time, and nothing else. And you are seeing people flee from the Republican and the Democratic Party because they're just so put out. And I think you'll also see one of the trends that we have seen is we have the highest number of registered independent voters in the history of the United States, and it's only going up every day, Craig.
Right. Yeah. The independents are the election deciders anymore, because the ones that aren't are flaming is the wrong word, but they're strong Republicans or they're strong Democrats, and it doesn't matter what the Democrat does or the Republican does, they're going to vote party lines. So the middle of the road people are the ones that they're the ones that decide the elections, because you hear them, the 6, 8, 10, 15% in the election. That's the ones they're all campaigning for, not the left or the right. They're definitely campaigning for the middle of the road voters.
Well, and I think people always say, we have to get rid of the electoral college because I want my vote to mean more. Well, they don't care about a majority of your all's votes anyway. They
Correct.
care about a very small number of purple areas throughout the country and the 7 swing states right now. It could be 8 if you throw in Texas, which I don't see that as a swing
That's
state, or
not a
even
swing state.
Georgia.
Yeah.
But if you they're focused on those states. So
Right.
states like Kentucky, they know what
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, normally Kansas, Iowa, they don't care about those
You don't see
as
a lot
much.
of political spending
No.
except in the formerly blue wall, and then Arizona out west, Nevada and Utah. You don't that they spend on 7 states and that's it. And Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin just get destroyed. Or they're
Right.
getting nothing but wall to wall political ads right now, which helps their economy, but it leaves the rest of the country out on the information, but most of it's fake information anyway.
I think one of the things that we need to also be ready for, especially in a place like Kentucky, while we were just talking about nationally, they may not care as much about your vote, but locally, you're already sick of those Kentucky Senate ads that are on your TV right now.
Right.
Get ready, because there's going to be a whole slew of them that are going to come out in the next 48 hours that are all going to be about, I care about women. I care about, making sure that we protect the most vulnerable. It's coming. It's absolutely coming. And you're going to have to see people like Senator or Congressman Barr, he's going to have to spend the money on this issue.
Yeah, they're gonna have to address it.
Yeah,
It's too big.
it really, really is. And I don't know what I don't know if the accountability is working or if this is just politics moving at the speed of outrage at this point, Craig.
Well, I'm still saying social media's got a whole lot to do with it because, as you noted off camera, that people get their news from TikTok
They do.
and X. I mean, every time I hear of a big event, I go straight to X because they'll have people on the street covering it, so you get to see it without the spin, without the editing, and it doesn't matter where it's at in the world. You'll see it. If you want to know about Iran, you watch Tusi TV.
Yeah,
Because
100%. Yeah.
the people in Iran send him all the video clips, and now he's appearing on Fox and CNN all the time because he's the information source for Iran, the Iranian citizens.
And one of the things that you sent to me right before we went on air was, now that you've had the 2 resignations of Gonzalez and Swalwell, the Republicans still hold a 3-seat lead, I believe is correct,
Mhm.
in the House right now. And trust me, they will use that to their advantage as much as they can. But the reality is, we're getting to a point now where it's so razor thin that we're not going to get a lot of movement on any issues. I'm concerned now about the funding for DHS and other things, regardless of what your position is on those. Those are federal employees, and we have to decide if we're going to pay some of these people as well. We have a continuing agreement on that until
We're
May.
lucky
So,
we haven't had any floods, any major tornado outbreaks,
oh,
and they
very.
predicted less than normal hurricanes this year, which will help out too because this is now the longest shutdown in history, and it's the shutdown that came from the 9/11 bombings when agencies weren't talking to each other,
Right.
and now Homeland Security was created. Now we're defunded it because of the various things that neither party can agree on, and they're got their feet in concrete and they're not moving.
Well, and to be very clear, Eric Swalwell was one of the big voices
Right.
that was leading the charge against not funding DHS. In fact, you played for me an audio just a little while ago, Craig, before we went on air, where he was talking about Kristi Noem and how she needed to be fired
Gone.
immediately, and the irony of that was, he talked about the abuse of immigrant women, and
Right.
it's just
Grabbing
so
them by the hair
hypocritical.
and stuff and throwing them in
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah. So it's incredibly hypocritical, but you're removing some very powerful voices in both of these parties here, and it's going to be a shakeup. And I think you're going to have to see where things land here. And as Washington deals with that fallout from that resignation, another major issue is gaining traction on Capitol Hill. House Republicans now say they plan to put victims at the center of their next phase of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. And so let's get right into that. Uh, House Oversight Committee Chairman Jamie Comer says Congress will soon hold hearings featuring victims of convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein, a move that could reopen one of the most controversial and far-reaching scandals in recent history. According to Reuters, Comer confirmed, quote, "We will have hearings with Epstein victims, signaling a significant escalation in congressional efforts to investigate the case and its broader network. These hearings are expected to allow victims to testify publicly under oath, bringing firsthand accounts directly to the congressional record. The renewed push comes after the release of thousands of documents tied to the Epstein case, with reporting indicating more than 1,000 victims have been identified. That's just a mind-boggling number.
I did not know it was that many.
Have been identified across multiple
No.
investigations. That's according to Reuters. Comer also noted that the committee investigators are already in contact with several victims. Some are willing to testify publicly. Others remain hesitant due to the emotional toll that they've had over the last 20 plus years. This isn't just about testimony, it's about what comes next. And the House Oversight Committee is also examining how Epstein's network operated for years without being stopped and who was behind not allowing it to be stopped, whether powerful individuals were shielded from scrutiny, and whether federal agencies failed to disclose information. Lawmakers have already subpoenaed multiple people through the broader investigation, and there are ongoing disputes over access to key documents. According to The Guardian, some members of Congress have already raised concerns about redacted records and withheld information, and there are growing calls for full transparency from the Department of Justice. Before we move on with the reaction, the blowback, this is the main reason Pam Bondi was fired, Craig. I mean, let's be honest.
That's
Whether you want to believe that it was because Trump didn't like the way she handled the documents, or he didn't like the way that there was little to no prosecution of individuals, that's where we are at this point, and that's exactly what is happening now. You know, Todd Blanche is heading up the agency right now. We know that they've already named who they believe to be the replacement in Lee Zeldin, but he hasn't made it through hearings yet. They haven't even set the hearings yet.
Right.
So now that Congress is starting these hearings, what do you expect to hear from the victims that may be different than anything we've already heard? And is it going to make any difference? I think that's the bigger question that everybody's asking. Will this make any difference in the world?
Well, they haven't put the first man. They haven't arrested the first man that abused these girls. Epstein's dead. What's her face is in jail in a tennis court prison, but
Club
none
Med.
of the men that utilized Epstein's services, whether in the U.S. or in New York, Florida, or Epstein Island, as always, when there's these big sex scandals, you never hear the name of the men that abuse these young girls and other women. That just blows me away, and how the women's groups are not going bonkers.
Oh, I totally agree.
Marching on Washington, D.C., marching on the Senate and House buildings, and demanding that these things go on. Jamie's doing, or Comer's doing it now.
Yeah. Representative Comer is doing what he can. He's in one of the most
yesterday. Yeah.
One of the most powerful positions that you could be in, and he's using that. Let me be very clear about this. We understand that there are people who still, for some reason, believe Donald Trump had something to do with Epstein, even though there's
no way,
mounds and mounds of proof that he didn't, and that's fine. But if the only thing you want to see come out of this is Donald Trump being prosecuted for Epstein, that's never going to happen. It's never going to happen because, number one, there's not evidence there. But number two, there are so many other powerful people that we know of, that we know who they are, that were involved with this terrible sex trafficking organization that they have. So if your only goal is to see Trump prosecuted, you're going to be disappointed. But if you want to see people held accountable, then you will very likely see someone take the fall. I don't think you'll see a lot of people, but you're going to see some people take the fall soon.
Yeah. The closest one is Prince Andrew when the king pulled all of his royal titles and all that stuff. That's the closest thing to any prosecution, but nobody in America, that none of the rich, famous, and powerful people that utilized Epstein Island, the ones we've seen in all the document, the 3.5 million pages
Yeah.
that with the flight logs and everything, none of them have been touched. I don't know if they've been prosecuted. I mean, I don't know if they've had hearings or anything like that. And because of that, you lose faith in the whole system. If the guys that abuse these girls can get away with, the rich and powerful can get away with it, but then they'll take somebody to jail that missed 3 court appearances. You got to wonder if there is really 2 tiers of justice in the United States. The rich and powerful get away, and we've seen it locally, we've seen it nationally, of course, and it's people are losing faith in government. I'm losing faith in government because these people got to be held accountable.
I totally agree, and I think that there are people that have been, kitchen table names that we have known for 40 years who
Yeah.
are tied to these allegations. Some have passed away, but many of them are, still around, and they are popular in tech, and they're big names in politics, and they're big names throughout the world in business.
Cost
And
Bill Gates' marriage.
yeah, and and they've admitted to this. I mean,
Right.
these people have admitted to being there. There's proof of them on the island, and nobody has been held accountable. And I will say this, and I know you'll agree with me. I don't care if there were 99 Republicans and 1
Right.
Democrat that were there. They should all go to jail.
Yeah, if
They
they
should
had
all be
proof
prosecuted.
if they had proof Trump participated in any of this, lock him up, throw away the key, get him out of the office, all that. But they've had this information since 2012 when he was originally
Right.
barely convicted,
Right.
barely convicted with anything, even though they had so much more. They've had from 2012 through the
You're talking about
Obama,
Epstein being convicted.
Epstein, yeah, and all the information. They've had it for 8 years under Obama, 4 years under Biden. They hate the earth that Trump walks on, and they didn't come forward with any of that. And they never, said we're going to make these Epstein files available. Trump campaigned on it, he released them, and now they all think that their only thing is Trump, Trump, Trump. He's got to be in there, and even when they say he's not,
Right.
he still say he's in there. It'll
Well,
never end.
they'll say he's in there 12,000 times. Yeah, because you had crazy people calling and
Billionaires run in the same circles.
yeah, and but nearly all the times that Trump is mentioned, he's mentioned because people called in to anonymous hotlines
Right.
saying his name, and because his name popped up, and there
Correct.
were wild stories. I mean, there's a recent story that involved Trump and Jim Jordan when Jim Jordan was in high school. I mean, it's
Right,
like
and
that's the
there
kind of
were
stories you're getting.
and there wasn't not Sting. What's the guy that looks like Sting? There's a lot of musicians that are in there that are listed. There's a lot of professional athletes that are listed.
Right.
That never, just in general conversation, like, hey, I saw you somewhere at lunch, and Jeffrey Epstein's tied in there somehow.
Right. I
And
mean,
so
Benny
they're
Johnson was
automatically guilty.
Yeah, Benny Johnson, not the commentator, not the congressman. Benny Johnson
Mhm.
was mentioned in the
Yeah.
Epstein files because he had reported on it. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
I
yeah,
think Sean Hannity, same thing. Sean
yeah,
Hannity was listed because he reported on it.
and Tucker Carlson. I mean, but if you just say, well, they're in the Epstein files, well, everybody that reported on it, their name was in there as well. Regardless of what happens, I hope we get to the bottom of it. I hope we
Yeah.
end up getting some people that are held accountable for what happens. That's the only thing that
And I
is
hope it's
right.
not Democrat, and usual oversight is one side is against the other. I hope they're both supporting these women,
Well,
these
well,
victims of Epstein.
you have a Congress that is essentially split right down the middle. You would think that because we don't have that extreme one side or the other like we had in the 90s in Congress, that you would have a situation where people would go, all right, where do we get to the middle and actually help people that were affected by this. We all know that things went down improperly. We all know that deals were cut, and who cut those deals is important. But we need to get to the bottom of what actually happened here, and talk to people who have the truth. And I think that, thank goodness, Representative Comer is doing this right now, and we're just going to have to see what happens. Not everyone agrees on how this should be handled. Some Epstein survivors have pushed back on the idea of public congressional hearings. According to The Guardian, several victims say forcing public testimony risks re-traumatizing survivors.
And he's not doing that, right?
He's not doing that. And he's
They're
come out and said he
volunteering
won't
to
do
come.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Other lawmakers argue the hearings are necessary. Members of Congress from both parties say victims deserve to have their stories heard if they choose to tell them, and the public deserves answers, and Congress has a responsibility to follow through on years of unanswered questions. So why does this matter? Let's be real about it. This is a powder keg. It's the one thing that everybody throughout the entire country can relate to. The Epstein case has always carried massive implication because of his ties to powerful political and business figures, long-standing questions about institutional failures, and the belief among many Americans that the full truth has never been revealed. And you and I both agree it probably has never been revealed. The problem with it not being revealed, on top of the obvious, is also we can't move on. We can't do the things that
Right.
are important in Congress because we're dealing with this. And this is very important, and it should be taken care of, and we should get to the bottom of it. But we can't get to bigger economic and political issues right now because we're spending so much time. And I blame everybody from 25 years ago that has allowed this to happen. And we need answers, but we need answers so we can move on as well. And somebody needs to be held accountable for this. And we need to get on with the business of being a cohesive American politic, and we can't do that right now because we're dealing with one issue for the last 5 years. I've never in my life, even 9/11 didn't take up this much time in American
Yeah,
politics
2
as
years.
Epstein has.
Right. It took 2 years of congressional hearings, but Pam Bondi, she screwed it up from the beginning when she said, "I've got that stack of 10,000 files on my desk to go through."
And then there was no stack.
And then she admitted there was no stack, and she was just doing what she thought saying what she thought was right instead of just sticking with the facts.
Right.
She'd have stuck with the facts and said, "We're going to redact out all these women's names," and hopefully that's all they did. That's all they redacted out, but nobody really knows.
Well, and then they redacted them, and they didn't actually redact them. You could go into
Right, yeah.
Adobe.
You can see a few of them. You can see
Yeah.
oh yeah, that's right. You could do the little hack and
Yeah.
get around it, but it's just it's got to get off the it's got to get ended so we can move on. It has to, because it's holding the whole damn country back. And,
It's holding us hostage, for lack of a better term.
So partisan. Yeah, it's become so partisan now. You mention anything, and they go, well, Trump and Epstein, or Democrats in Epstein, or Clinton's in Epstein.
Yep.
And I saw something the other day that when Bill Clinton and what's her name, they did their little thing around the desk, Hillary took up for him then, saying, well, she's 22, she's an adult, she can do, like they had that special marriage back then, and a whole nother story. I ain't gonna go into
a whole other story. Well,
I don't want to veer into that area.
While Congress prepares for those hearings, another issue involving oversight and accountability is about to take center stage, this time with a direct connection to the Commonwealth of Kentucky. The state's top auditor is heading to Washington after uncovering what she says is more than $1 billion in fraud tied to taxpayer-funded programs. So let's bring it back home here. Kentucky State Auditor Allison Ball is set to testify before a U.S. House subcommittee after her office uncovered what she says is more than $1 billion in waste,
Amazing.
fraud, and abuse tied to taxpayer-funded programs in the Commonwealth. According to WDRB, Ball will appear before a House Oversight Committee to outline how those findings were uncovered and what can be done to prevent similar issues nationwide. More than $1 billion worth of waste, fraud, and abuse has been identified through these audits, according to her and her office. And the breakdown of those findings is raising serious concerns. Recent audits cited in the report include more than $33 million in tax overcharges impacting Kentucky taxpayers. Craig, that's the first one that we'll talk about here in a second. More than $170 million in unreported Medicaid spending.
That's the big one.
And then the biggest number is failures and oversight, including missed nursing home inspections. All of it's tied to programs funded at least in part with federal dollars. Ball says her testimony will focus not just on what was found, but how it happened. And she is quoted by saying it's an honor to be recognized as a leading voice on this topic nationally, Ball said ahead of her testimony, emphasizing the need for stronger oversight and accountability. Craig, I'm just going to be quite honest with you. The first thing that hits me is $33 million in tax overcharges that affect individuals. If it's a tax overcharge, then you're talking about people who paid into the system. We're not talking about people who get a refund check and didn't
Right.
work all year long. You're talking about your middle class folks who are probably either doing their own taxes or have a small firm doing their taxes. I think H&R Block, things like that. But then now you're hearing that there were $33 million in tax overcharges by the Kentucky State Revenue. What in the world are we even doing here, Craig?
And do they know who, if they tracked it all the way back as the auditor should, will those people that will they get a refund? That's a hell of a lot of money. Besides all the other part of the $1 billion, like you said, that's directly out of the taxpayer's pocket. And in our economic times right now, with $4 gas, that money can go a long way for the middle class people that are paying into Medicaid and Medicare.
Well, and let's be clear, there are only 1.9 million taxpayers in the Commonwealth of Kentucky.
Out
When
of
you take
4.2 million.
out of 4.2 million, so 1.9 million of those people are taxpayers, and of those 1.9 million, 33 million. Now that's only $33 spread out or $30 spread out, but I'm telling you, majority of that money is going to small business owners and folks who have large payrolls that they're paying. I can guarantee you those are the people, because they itemize their amounts or they have so many things that they have to file proof of. Another reason that we really need the state legislature to deal with tax reform. My gosh, that should be their number one priority. But since we're not talking about that right now, that's why things like this can slip through. And if there's $33 million that is being overpaid by Kentucky state taxpayers, we have to fix that problem.
And then I think the worst one is $170 million in untracked money. That's what they got California for, with those billions of dollars. They just handed the money out and didn't track it nowhere. So somebody figured out, or several people, like up in Minnesota and California, figured out how to game the system.
Yeah.
They knew the money wasn't tracked, so they just went crazy. But
well, all this occurred.
How do you not track?
Yeah.
As a government agency with supercomputers out the wazoo,
yeah.
How do you not track $170 million?
I will tell you that all this started back during COVID. When
Right.
they were giving out,
everything was yes. The only
payroll protection.
Yeah.
They were giving out all sorts of
unemployment stuff to everybody.
And nobody asked any questions. There was no verification. You didn't have to prove anything. And now we're getting to the point where they're having to do their own audits, and the federal government and the state governments are going, where's the money?
The commissioner of unemployment lost his job because he couldn't get it out fast enough.
Well, the unemployment commissioner he took his own life because he was the scapegoat for that. And it was it's an unfortunate, it's a very, very sad story. And it's one of those situations where now we get to the point 5-6 years down the road and you're going, where did all the money go? And nobody can answer any questions. And now the auditor is having to go and try to find this money, because you end up having states like Minnesota and California who have billions of dollars on top of it. And we have $1 billion in a state that's already an impoverished state. So this is a big deal for us right now.
And do you know what the state budget is? I'm getting ready to look it up. The overall state budget.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
Now, let me look and see.
The state budget is
that $1 billion is a good percentage.
It's 3% because it's $32 billion is what the state budget is over the next 2 years.
So it's okay. Yeah. So it's a lick. And
yeah. I mean, you're talking at
32 to 32.4 billion, right?
So you're talking about $1 billion through there. That's about
It's
3% of your
3%.
state
Yeah,
budget.
3%. Yeah,
3 to
that's
5%
huge.
of your state budget is missing, and this is just what she's found so far. There's no
Yeah,
telling what
and
else is out there.
3% is what small businesses make. It's 3%. If McDonald's made 3%
Oh,
profit,
that's that
they,
yeah.
they would be amazed. They'd
If
be just amazed.
your your grocery stores make like 0.7 to
Right, less than
0.8%.
1%. Right.
So, people complaining about groceries. Your grocers are not making a ton of money, but
We're lucky they're staying in business.
we really are. And in a lot of places, after traveling, a lot of places have closed because, Publix and these other very large groceries, they've taken over. There are no mom and pop groceries anymore because they
Right.
can't. I mean, Pick
Yep.
Pack, for example, here
Publix is
in
coming
Greenville.
to Shelbyville.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
maybe Versailles. They got the new big shopping center going in up there, and there's
yeah.
all kinds of rumors about what's going in there. But it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be. It's just
Well,
unbelievable that money is missing. Unbelievable.
yeah, and there's also a political layer here that you and I were talking about just before we came on. The subcommittee Ball is testifying before falls under the House Oversight Committee chaired by Kentucky Congressman Jamie Comer. So you've got Kentucky Auditor testifying before a Kentucky-led committee about federal spending ties to Kentucky that puts this issue squarely in the national spotlight. And don't be surprised if this turns into a broader fight over who's responsible for the breakdown, whether it was previous auditors, whether it was previous legislators, whether it was previous governors, and whether states or federal agencies dropped the ball, and how widespread this issue is. The other side of this is you have two of the biggest leading voices in Commonwealth of Kentucky politics right now on the
Yep.
Republican side, one testifying before the subcommittee of another one. And I strongly believe that a Jamie Comer Allison Ball ticket would be absolutely unbeatable going into the next election. You can put Rocky Adkins and everybody else on there, but I'm telling you, you take Jamie Comer and Allison Ball as a ticket. You can put whoever you want on top or below, but I'm telling you that would be a very tough ticket to beat.
It'd be hard to beat. Yeah, it would be. And you go back. We talked previously about state employee salaries and people leaving and all that stuff. This could be part of that too. The employees could just be saying, "I'm not getting paid enough to do all this extra work," and finally, so or it could be. I don't know what it could be, but it could be part of it that the state employee says, "I just don't got time to dig into all of this stuff, and what's the point? They'll
Well,
probably
the
sit on the shelf and nothing will be done anyway."
Well, the other side of this is frustrating in the sense that imagine being, and you don't have to imagine because you are one. Imagine being a state retiree or
Yep.
a state employee, and you open up the paper. I know nobody has papers anymore. You turn on your computer and you see that Allison Ball has identified $1 billion that's missing. Now, when we did the numbers, when they were talking about adding the amounts that they needed for uh, for the increase for the 13th check, it was way below,
Right.
even $20 million. So you're talking about, you know, 20 times that, and you can't find this money. I would be appalled as a state employee or a state retiree when you can't give me a pay increase, a cost of living adjustment, not even a pay increase, a cost of
Right.
living adjustment. And by the way, for all the folks who are in our comments and everything else, whether it's on one social media or the other, that say, well, you should have had a 401k. That's not an option for these folks. For the folks who have retired, that was not something that they could have done. It was not
We
something
had
that
we
they.
had deferred comp back then.
That's right. That's right.
401k when I retired, 401. Well, as I was going through state government, 401k didn't exist, wasn't
Right.
even available. You put it in deferred comp, or you relied on your KERS or CERS retirement.
Right, and not participating in the state pension was not an option either. So you had to
Correct.
participate.
Right.
So your money is going out of your paycheck into these programs that they were telling you, hey, don't worry. For the last 40 years, we've increased the cost of living, and it's kept up with inflation. And then as of early 2000s, that was swept away. It was taken away from you, and they haven't given you anything. And then to find out that in the last 4 years, they found $1 billion that's missing. I mean, I would be so irate that that's the point as a state employee or a state retiree where I have got to be furious. And that begs the question is, what happened? Was it weak oversight? Was it lack of accountability?
Had to be weak oversight.
A-
Had to
And
be.
and who is not in prison that needs to be there right now? Because if you're saying you can't give a cost of living 1% to retirees who are living off $18,000 a year as a state retiree, and you can't give them a 1% interest, 1% cost of living adjustment, but you have $1 billion missing, that's ridiculous. It's
Right.
ridiculous. I don't have any other words for it.
And, like we've noted before, since I retired in 2007,
You got choked up
got
about it.
choked up a little bit. Since 2007 and 8, when I got the last two cost of living adjustments, from '08 to today, there's been a 1% increase in cost of living. Now, just from 2020 to early 2025, inflation was over 21.2%. And the way that works, when the Fed says we want a 2% rate, a 2% inflation rate, that means it's 2% in 2020, it's
Right.
2% in 2021, 2% all piling up on top of each other, just like compounded interest. So every 5 years, the cost of living goes up over 10%.
Yeah.
And we had during the coronavirus, it went up 21.2%. So when federal people brag, well, inflation's only 2%, I want to know what it's been the last 10 years because it's 10 years on top of each other. That's
Right.
why when I was 15, gasoline was 26 cents, and today it's $4 a gallon.
Yeah, and
bread was a quarter, and now it's $3.
and it's inflation and the idea of cost of living adjustments that allow people to be able to survive. But now you have state employees who are 65, 70 years old who can't survive, even with their Social Security on top of it. They're not making ends meet.
Right.
And that's the thing that really, really irks me, is that, if you had just factored in cost of living at a very minor amount, 0.5% annually or something crazy, it still would not have even been close to keeping up with inflation. But at least you could fall back and say, well, we're trying our best. We at least did something. They've done nothing. They've done nothing. And then you find out that your auditor comes in and goes, yeah, and we wasted $1 billion. I
That
mean,
will
that
never
makes it
get
even
back.
worse.
Yeah, and if you're going to recruit quality employees, we don't have a retirement system now because you go to work, it's almost darn near impossible to get fired.
Yeah.
And then you put your 30 years in and you get your retirement. That doesn't exist today. Now you start putting in a 401k right off the bat, and if you're not a disciplined saver, you've got nothing after 30 years.
Yeah, you really don't. We'll have to keep
And then
an eye
all
on.
you've got Social Security, and you better
Yeah.
hope it's there beyond 2032.
Yeah, and it's not funded beyond that. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. And while
Yeah.
the Kentucky Auditor prepares to take concerns about accountability to Washington, another issue is already boiling over right here in Lexington, this time on the campus of the University of Kentucky. The University of Kentucky is facing growing protests from faculty and staff over its controversial Integrate Blue initiative, with union leaders warning the plan could reshape jobs, wages, and the future of the university workforce. According to reporting from the Kentucky Kernel, the on-campus newspaper, members of the United Campus Workers of Kentucky have publicly challenged the plan, which would centralize campus services and shift some employees under a separate entity known as Beyond Blue. The university says the goal is efficiency, but workers say that language raises red flags. At a recent protest, UK employee Dan Moon said, when people use the word efficiency, it often leads to cuts. He's not wrong. Moon also warned about
Right.
broader impacts. We're concerned about the impact on our campus and throughout Lexington, and concerns escalated over a proposed long-term outsourcing plan. And according to LEX 18, the initiative includes a potential 30-year contract to outsource services like maintenance and custodial work, something union leaders say could fundamentally change employment conditions. At a rally covered by LEX 18, one protester put it bluntly, saying, "We're not standing for this. What they're doing isn't right." And another warned about long-term consequences. A 30-year contract means we're shutting out a whole generation. The university is pushing back on those concerns. In statements reported by LEX 18, UK officials say all UK employees all UK employees keep their jobs, pay, and benefits. And spokesperson Jay Blanton with the University of Kentucky told the
Not
Kentucky,
related.
not related, told the Kentucky, I've been in front of him plenty of times,
Yeah.
the Kentucky Colonel, the initiative is aimed at reducing duplication and delivering consistent services. The university also argues the changes are necessary due to growing financial and operational pressures facing higher education. Well, now here's the here's the problem. This isn't just a campus disagreement. This could have long-term consequences. Number one, there'll be a two-tier workforce. Critics warn future employees could face lower wages and reduced benefits, creating a split system between current and future workers. What does that sound like, Craig? Sounds like state employees, doesn't it?
Right. Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
Yep.
But what's causing probably a lot of this is the UK is looking down the road and looking at AI.
That
So many white collar jobs, bosses, so many supervisors and up, they're going to lose their jobs because their jobs will be automated out. Accountants, their bosses, they could get rid of a whole branch of UK just by AI.
They could, and where will these positions be let go through attrition? It's hard to tell, but the second part of that is privatization of public jobs. A 30-year outsourcing deal could shift core services away from the university control, raising concerns about accountability and job stability. The local impact is big because UK is one of Lexington's largest employers. Any change to wages or benefits ripples directly into the local economy. And then obviously there's a national precedent. If this model works, other public universities face similar budget concerns. I will also say this. Here's the part that hits students, right? And this is the thing that we have to take into consideration. Even since I was in school 30 years ago, God, it seems like a long time ago, but 30 years ago, costs of going to a public education, public school have skyrocketed. In-state tuition and fees right now annually to attend the University of Kentucky, including housing and food, is $36,000 plus annually. To attend the University of Kentucky from a kid from Central Kentucky. Out of state is $60,000 annually to attend the University of Kentucky. That puts a 4-year degree at $140,000 as an in-state student, whereas a $230,000 hit for those for out-of-state students. And I can tell you, Craig, as someone who's had kids who have applied to the University of Kentucky, and I've had a number of students who have been, had internships with me who have applied to the University of Kentucky. The University of Kentucky does not give full scholarships. You just don't. No, you can get
full academics.
Nope. If you have a perfect ACT and a 4.0, you can qualify for half scholarship, and very rarely there's about 6 spots that will get full academic scholarship. So it's important, kids, if you want to go to the University of Kentucky, you're going to have to stack scholarships from other places, individuals.
Or be a good high school basketball player.
Or attend your local community college where you can go for 2 years through the KCTCS system and get all of your basics down, get your associate's degree, and then you can transfer to the University of Kentucky for the exact same tuition amount than what you're paying at KCTCS. So that's the play these days, ladies and gentlemen. If you're trying to figure out the life hack there, that's the way to do it. But Craig, you're talking about the University of Kentucky talking about, well, the cost of providing education is going up and up. My gosh, you're $36,000 to a year to attend an in-state school, and you're saying it's going to get higher?
I don't know if you remember your law school cost, but the one year I went to UK in 1978, it was $2,000. Then when my children graduated high school, they both chose to go to NKU. My son was 2 years older. Calculated the cost of putting both of them through school was $200,000. Now you're saying UK is $140,000 by itself for one kid. How the crap are people going to afford it? Or are they going to be 40 years old still paying college debt and not be able to buy a house?
Well, that's exactly what's happening. And I will tell you, for you kids out there who are considering, should I go to a trade school or should I go to college? It's not even a question. It's not even a question anymore.
Right.
You go to a trade school. You absolutely go to a
Yeah.
trade school.
Dude,
You learn a trade, and you're not going to get bogged down like this.
right. Do you see plumbers, electrician, HVAC? Do you see those companies go out of business?
No, no.
No,
I see him. I
that's
see him buying
career
more
job.
property.
Yeah, that's career jobs, and AI will not be able to get rid of those type of jobs. Well, they can do welders, but the hands-on work that keep people's houses going, those are careers that pay great money. They're in great demand because I think I saw that the electricians and plumbers in Franklin County, their average age is over 50.
Yeah,
So there's great opportunities for young people to become an entrepreneur and start
absolutely.
out small and grow, because they've
And
all started small and gotten much bigger.
I will also say that the career and technical school at Franklin County and in Franklin County Public
Mhm.
Schools is a wonderful addition.
My
Um,
son went there.
they are doing great things, and I'm telling you, there are kids that are coming out of there. We talked about one last week, Max Perry, or a couple weeks ago,
Mhm.
and others who are getting these certifications and can get a job right out of high school. It's still
Right.
possible to do that, but this idea that you have to go to a university and get 4 years of education and get a degree. Listen, if you're not going to work in corporate America, and even if you are working in corporate America, I'd say there's an argument you don't have to do that. But unless you're working in corporate America, you don't have to go that route anymore. You just
Well,
don't.
and how good is our technical school at Franklin County?
Oh, it's amazing.
When my
It's a-
son went there, they just started the robotics stuff,
yep.
and they got in statewide competition, won it, and then finished 5th in the whole country out of Franklin County.
Yeah.
They held the competition down in Tennessee. And so we've got a great technical school. Those jobs are going to be the jobs of the future. White collar jobs are not going to be the job of the future. Stockbrokers, all that stuff's going to be replaced by AI. In 5 years, not 5 years, by 2030, it's going to be a completely different country, because you
Yeah.
can do so much on AI. I play around with it all the time.
Yeah, I agree. I
And
mean,
I don't
it's
even know what the hell, I don't even know what I'm doing.
you're just
Swear-
telling ChatGPT and Grok to make picture, and it
Yeah,
does, right?
that's how I kept my grandkids entertained all weekend.
Right.
I just kept making little 10-second videos off of Super Grok,
Yep.
and it just made their day.
Yeah.
And they say, well, do this, do this, do this. So I'm exposing them to this at 5 years old and 4 years old.
Yeah, and I think the other question, if UK needs to cut costs internally, why are students still paying this much? Is it about efficiency or shifting labor and costs long term? We're just gonna have to keep an eye on these things. This is something that's not going away. It's something that I
They
think
have too many administrators.
I think they're very
a lot of it.
I think that's a lot of it as well. And as tensions rise uh, on campus here in Kentucky, there's another story building just down the road, this time involving the Wildcats and a major week of recruiting. Craig, I will tell you, I have just gotten breaking news.
Cool.
This is
Good.
breaking news right now. It's not good news though.
Oh, shit.
It's not It's not a surprise. Jaden Quains has entered the NBA draft. He will not be returning to the University of Kentucky. And so we can talk about the experiment with Jaden Quains on another day, but he is gone. He is not going to be back in the fold. It has been a busy and a potentially program defining week for the University of Kentucky men's basketball team, and head coach Mark Pope, as multiple high profile recruits and transfer portal targets have either visited Lexington or are strongly linked to the program. The first one, obviously, is Robert Wright III. The biggest name with the most momentum right now appears to be Robert Wright III. According to reporting from On3 and Kentucky outlets relaying Field of 68 insider Jeff Goodman, Kentucky is viewed as the heavy favorite, with the race essentially down to UK and BYU. To remind you guys, Wright recently visited Lexington. He's still in Lexington.
Right.
And he has 18.1 points per game, 4.6 assists. He shoots 41% from three-point line. He's the cleanest Kentucky lead situation, if you will. He's the one that has the most momentum. However, I will say that just in the last few minutes, we've gotten information that maybe he's still showing some love to BYU, and it's not a done deal. I don't that came from Tyler Thompson with KSR, but there's still a lot of momentum working right now. I'm looking at Tristan Ferris says Robert Wright arrived yesterday. There's no wild swing that has happened in that span. Money is and will continue to be the priority, but Kentucky has the resources to build a stronger roster around him.
Obviously so, yeah.
So I'm confident that if it's a money issue, we'll get that done. I will tell you that my information is that Kentucky is focused very heavily on Wright and Stokes, with obviously Freeman and Zoom Diallo as well. Those guys are coming in, but it's if we can nail those guys down, they feel confident that other guys are just going to want to play here because of them. So we're kind of waiting to see. On the Tyron Stokes, we saw this last night. This is from his Instagram live last night. You can see Tyron Stokes hitting a half-court shot.
Mhm.
He's an elite 5-star prospect and arguably the biggest long-term prize. He also visited Kentucky this week, but recruitment is far from locked up. According to national recruiting analyst Travis Branham, Kansas is still viewed as the slight leader heading into this stretch. And you and I were talking before we went on the air, but Stokes has said he needs another week at least.
Yeah.
And I don't know if Kentucky can hang on another week. I do believe that we will hear something in the next 24 hours about one of them. I think that'll probably be Robert Wright. And we're just going to have to see. Donnie Freeman is here right now. He is a transfer portal guy from Syracuse, big guy. Is expected to visit Kentucky, or he's visiting Kentucky this week, according to Jeff Goodman. It's a good shot that Kentucky will get this target. He's a real possibility. 16.5 points per game, 7.2 rebounds, led the team in scoring and rebounding. It's just you got to have another big guy along with your center and Moreno. Zoom Diallo is the other guy that everybody's talking.
He's key.
Yeah, Zoom Diallo is a big one. He's another guard firmly in the mix. His visit to Lexington was confirmed after he posted from inside the Kentucky locker room, according to On3 reporting. Diallo's numbers: 15.7 points, 4.5 assists, and 3.9 rebounds. There's also some inside chatter suggesting Kentucky made a strong push during his visit, but nothing firm at this point. Obviously, they're making a strong push. What changed this with Diallo, and you and I talked about this last night, is Arizona, which was his number one team, immediately signed two guards.
Yeah, two.
And
right.
and which essentially puts him on the outside looking in. Two starting guards, by the way. So that backcourt may be a little too busy. Now, if you sign Wright and you already have a freshman that you're in Williams that you're gonna try to bring up through the ranks a little bit, the son of Mo Williams, it's gonna be a big deal. I will say that there has been a lot of chatter over the last 24 hours about Zoom Diallo really being interested in the University of Kentucky. I think that's a real possibility.
The picture he shared was the Final Four in the locker room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
That's the one he shared. So I thought, well, that's good, and Arizona signing those two guards, that's another tick in our favor.
That was really good for us, actually.
Yeah. And I don't know that he's talking to any others, but, publicly, I've not been able to find out if he's talking to others. So if we can get him, I think that'll get right.
Yeah.
And then if we can get what's the player's name from Syracuse, the big guy?
Donnie Freeman,
man.
And then, of course, don't forget about
he's a monster.
Yeah, don't forget about Magoon Gwath. He is the emerging big man target. I was reading yesterday, a lot of people were saying, "Oh, he'd be a great backup to Moreno." This guy's he's the former defensive player of the year as a freshman out on the West Coast. This kid is not somebody that's going to be warming a bench and coming in for 5 minutes.
They play side by side.
Yeah, he averages 9 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 1.5 blocks a game. I mean, can you imagine having those guys late in a game when you're trying to
and you're blocking that many shots? How many trajectories are
at that point,
how many deflections is he? Or guess that's Calipari? How many deflections is he causing?
Yeah, and the other thing about that is he's not a headline name, although he has been mentioned at the University of Kentucky a couple times. He actually hits about 50% from the 3-point line. He only takes 2 a game, but he hits about 50%.
Hey,
but
I'll take those.
I know you will. But he fits a need if Kentucky really wants size and a rim protector, and you don't put all of that on Moreno. The problem with Moreno is for a lot of times, you know, Diabate would be having a bad game, or Garrison would be having a bad game, and we're like, we got to bring Moreno back in. The kid can't rest, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, well, he can't rebound when you need him to. He's exhausted. You need
Correct.
other guys that can come in and spell bodies. You're gonna have Braden Hawthorne next year. You're gonna have some other guys there, but this would be a big get, an instant impact player. Kentucky appears to be in the strongest position with Robert Wright. They're still battling for Tyron Stokes. It's not over yet. I'm still waiting on any updates if I get that. Actively pursuing Donnie Freeman. They're in the mix for Zoom Diallo. They're exploring Magoon Guath as a front court option. It's a massive stretch. This next week is a massive stretch. I think once you hear that first one fall, you're going to see some other things start
Do you think,
to happen.
we saw Jeff Goodman's quote. Do you think Stokes will come to Kentucky?
I believe that we're in a lot better position than we were with Stokes. In fact, I read an odd tweet today that talked about after the McDonald's All-American game, he gave his Adidas shoes away because he hates Adidas so much that he
Right.
didn't want to have Adidas shoes. Now, for those of you who are like, that's kind of dumb, that probably doesn't mean anything. Listen, as an 18-year-old kid, brands matter. These kids, if they don't like Adidas, that's what Kansas is. Everything he's going to be wearing is Adidas. And the University of Kansas has a contract with Adidas. They're not going to agree to have their biggest player not wearing Adidas. So, if
Kansas has lost some players too, right?
Kansas has nobody on their team essentially right now.
That's another thing in our favor. But if he's hanging out for $8 million, Lord have mercy, he better score 30 a game.
Yeah, they've done it before, but now I'm hearing that it's 8 to 9 million. That's just an absurd number. You have guys like Colin Chandler who are asking for $3.2 million, and now you have.
But he gave 2 years.
He did.
And he was a huge contributor last year. Won a couple games for us. He was the number one defender. He took all the tough defensive assignments, and the guy has an eternal motor. He never looked tired.
Yeah, it's just going to be hard to live up to the expectations of this fan base unless you're dominating, unless you are looking like the University of Michigan did for 99% of their games this year.
And paying $8 million, that's NBA rookie money.
It is.
That's. And I don't blame them. I mean, if my kid was that good, I'd be searching for the dough too. Because
if I was 6'8", you got to ask.
He's going into the NBA after 1 year. We know that unless he gets hurt, and I don't think that matters anymore.
But look at Jaden Quaintance.
Right? Yeah, JQ's going and played 20 minutes all year or something.
Yeah,
but I can't blame him because you can turn $8 million into generational money. Like as long as he's got a good financial advisor, his dad puts the clamps on him.
Well, and you've got guys like Jasper Johnson, who are asking for over $1 million. I mean, Jasper Johnson, who for a majority of the second half of the season was just MIA. He was in the witness protection program. We had no idea where he was, and he's asking for over $1 million.
Yeah. Well, let me ask this: do small colleges get NIL money like KSU, Campbellsville, Center?
So at most of those schools, they have a cooperative or a collaborative like UK does as well, but that's all they have. Essentially, if you want me to sponsor, Da Vinci's Pizza, Da Vinci's Pizza can give me $1,000 and
that's all it is.
I'll plug you on my Instagram.
Have an agent or a lawyer guiding them. You seek that money for them.
You could, but you're not going to get it from K-State. You're not going to get it from Georgetown. You're not going to get it at Georgetown College, by the way, for those of you who are watching. You're not going to get it at High Point and places like that, even though that's a very
I was thinking of a new business for us.
Yeah, well,
go into the sports business.
Well, I'm all for it. You all can reach out to me and we'll talk about that. But
my idea,
that's right. That's right. Well, I need people to help me with my stuff too, right? So
yeah.
Well, that will take us to the end right now. I don't have any other major announcements that are coming through. I will say that I do believe that uh, the donors will open up their pockets if Wright and
Yeah.
Stokes sign this week, but we will have to see how that happens. And as we wrap up tonight from
Well, let's
Washington,
not wrap up yet. Let's talk
okay.
about the things in the future.
Oh, okay. Well, the
You-
first,
for the end of this week, we'll have the third district magistrate, Russ Greenwell, on, and
Yep.
then tell about the big news that we're doing.
well, first
We got
first
everybody
things first.
covered.
Tomorrow night we're going to have John Hibbard, candidate for the fiscal
Fifth
court as
district.
well. He'll be on. We are actually, you and I are going to shoot a secondary one as well after that, an interview with our friend Farzad, who's going to come on to discuss uh, the Iranian people and what this means to the Persian people, and all the things that have happened. Next week, next Thursday at 5 o'clock. This is big news. I'm glad you reminded me. At 5 o'clock, we will have a live debate on our channel of the Democrat candidates for sheriff in Franklin County.
Can
If
you
you
name
have
them, please?
Yeah, we have Sheriff Dwayne Depp, we have Jonathan Presley, and we have Brandon Moravicek. All three have agreed to join us. We are looking very forward to this. It will be broadcast live on our channel, so make sure you all go ahead and prepare for that, and you'll be able to watch it on demand after as well.
And shoot us questions.
Absolutely.
Because Dwayne's a sheriff,
Yep.
retired KSP. Brandon just retired from Lexington Police, and Presley currently works for Frankfort Police. Correct?
That's right. That's right. So these are lifelong folks in law enforcement. So shoot us some questions over the next week, privately, or you can text or email or send us something from Facebook or Messenger or whatever else. We will have those folks on, and it's going to be live, and it will not be sanitized. We will give them enough time to talk. We will give them enough time to give answers. This is not going to be your typical local public
Fluff questions. No fluff
debate.
questions.
No fluff questions. We're going to ask hard-hitting questions, and everyone's going to get a chance to respond to them, and everyone's going to get a chance to finish their idea. We're not going to, ring the bell or, shock them or anything else if they don't stay within that time frame. That could be interesting though.
Yeah. No, they
But
got guns.
they do. They could pull us over too. So make sure you join us. Make sure you go ahead and plan on that. It will be something like you've never seen before here on this channel, but we hope it's something
Or
that
in
you'll see in the
Franklin
future. Yeah,
County.
and in Franklin County.
In Franklin County.
And I'm telling you, the primary is right around the corner. So this will be your best chance to see what each of these candidates offers for the citizens of Frankfort and Franklin County. So I want to go ahead and thank those guys for agreeing to be here and prepare for that next Thursday, the 23rd. Is it the 23rd?
Yeah, I think so. And then we got the two of the both Republican candidates also.
And we have the Republican.
Wrong.
Yeah, and we will also have any of the candidates from the Republican side that want to come on here. We told everybody if you can't come, we are giving everybody the opportunity whether you show up or not. So so we will be able to ask those questions as well, and we'll ask the exact same questions that you all send to us. We're happy to ask those as well. So that's what we have coming up here. Lots of big things. I'm pretty excited. I know Craig is too. If you have any information or any folks that you think we should interview. Also, we talked to the city manager, Jason Monroe. He says he's going to join us in the next week or so. I know that
it'll be after baseball season.
Yeah, after baseball season, he's tied up with he's spent a little bit too much time and money invested in travel baseball. So I don't blame him for being into that. But as we wrap up tonight, from Washington to Frankfort to Lexington, one thing is clear: accountability, transparency, and big decisions are shaping headlines at every single level right now, and those stories aren't slowing down anytime soon. That's going to do it for us tonight. Thanks for joining us here on Apex News Above the Noise podcast. I am Kyle Thompson, and I am joined every weekday by my friend Craig Blanton at 5 p.m. We will be right back here tomorrow with more stories that matter most to you. So join us. We will see you guys tomorrow. I hope you guys have a great night. Thanks for joining us.